Good morning to all. Welcome to a webinar on H1B, COVID, and your American education dream. Seeking the blessing of Lord Sri Durundishwara and Mahaswamiji, I, Professor D.B. Madhyarli, Faculty of Electronics and Communication Engineering Department, Sugar Institute of Technology, Nidasosi, welcome you all to this webinar. On behalf of Principal, HOD, staff, and entire participants, I heartily welcome the today's speaker, Ms. Shabnam Banu Madam, National Admissions Manager, Manya Education, Bengaluru. Welcome, Madam. And I welcome our beloved HOD, Dr. Ravi M. Yadahli sir, to this session. I extend warm welcome to all the participants and my colleagues. Welcome to one and all. So now I feel proud to introduce the speaker of the today's webinar, Ms. Shabnam Banu Madam. Madam completed her computer science graduation from Osmania University, Hyderabad. Madam working in the education sector for the past 15 years. She is having more than 13 years experience in abroad career counseling for helping students in building their bright careers. She have extensive knowledge on all major countries' requirements for admission services, training and development. She is expert in the knowledge of human psychology, which helps in dealing with the students and deciding the correct career option that would suit their interest and talent. Her achievements are placing good profile students in top universities in their career field, and she has a track record for giving a correct guidance and support for the students. Presently, Madam working as a national admission head in Manya Education, and her role is to get connected to students and give them guidance and support for abroad education pan India. With this brief note, I conclude my introduction speech. Thank you one and all. And now I request to Ms. Shabnam Banu Madam to start the session.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mahanadi. It's a very good honor that today we are all a part of this discussion, and I'm fortunate that we are able to talk and communicate to the students today. So just give me a moment. Let me just try to share my screen with all the students out there. Yeah. All right. Can somebody just give me a heads up whether my screen is, you're able to see my screen there out? Thank you, Karthik. Yeah, thank you, Karthik. Yeah. All right. It's a good opportunity today that we are all being collectively able to talk about this pandemic issues, what is currently moving on, and how shaken up our students are. And I think they are definitely looking forward for some kind of an answers and some kind of an suggestions from us. So it is a great honor that today, due to the request and what we have got from Dr. Madi Hali, is basically an honor today that he has given us the privilege to talk to and communicate to all the students of HSIT institution. So it's a privilege today. So let's go ahead in discussing with the students also. And I would like the students to be a little patiently listening to the session, and you can be able to ask me your relevant doubts after the session when we conclude the session today. So I would be able to even revert back to your question and answer sessions in the chat screens available to you guys, and you can put your questions up, and then we could be able to address them in the later scenario. All right. So today we would be talking about H1B visa, the kind of an discussion which has been taking place about the COVID and the American education dream basically, and what are the kind of an options in regards with the fall 2021 admission process, and how you could be able to go ahead in terms of still thinking a bit on a positive note that we could be able to move ahead with your intake timelines, all that. So let's go ahead in talking about it and voicing it out, and what kind of an impact has been, look forward for. Yeah, so today let's talk about all this particular topic, and we would be able to give you some kind of an insight about what we feel when we talk to the students and the parents today, and how is that they are also able to move ahead with their positive thoughts in their mindset because of this particular pandemic issues. All right, so let's move on. What kind of an impact has the COVID been given to all the international students? So we have tried to, collage our data because we are being known in the industry for our test preparations, and then we have a large volume of our students who normally look forward for registrations towards the GRE, towards the SAT programs, towards their IELTS, and TOEFL and GMATs, etc. So when we have, look forward for our, data, and when we have even analyzed with when talking to the respective universities where we have our own direct tie-ups, and taking the scenarios of the world, and then we talk about, taking up the kind of an update what you have been hearing about it, the kind of an impact what we have seen is basically, I think the decisions are pretty much what we had sent it out in a very similar way. So when we had to jot it down to different countries, it's more or less almost all on the same panel, with the percentage, if you have to talk about it, with less than around 6 or 5% of variations, to be very honest with you guys. So when we speak about US, we say that, almost around 60% students have really got shaken up, and then, that's how it is when we talk about the rest of the world. So it is an impact, I'm sure, yes. But only thing is, it has not yet gone to a disturbance level wherein the students have come up saying that, well, we are not really looking forward for going ahead with their plans for, further educations abroad. So let's see how we could be able to look forward in terms of giving you a little understanding about how we could be able to, move ahead with this particular pandemic issue, right? So how do we see that? What kind of students are still continuing abroad, even though we have been affected on this particular COVID? So when we talk about it, we have almost around a 91 percentage of our Indian students who still want to continue studying abroad, though we are in this particular shaken kind of an scenario with this COVID. So now, basing onto the kind of stats what we have is 96 percentage are planning to go ahead with their education abroad in the next 6 to 10 months. That is basically looking forward for this September for the Jan intake, moving on to 2022, right? So we don't see a major dip, but yes, there are students who are looking forward for their education, and which is a really good sign. I should rather add it on to, because it is very important that when you talk about the Indian students, we are so focused about our careers, we are so focused about shaping our goals, and it is nothing which has realistically, shaken up our decisions in going abroad, right? So that's how we talk about our 76 percentage are still planning to go ahead with their education abroad. Now when we talk about the remaining 16%, we take the decision about staying abroad by summer, while 8% are still considering the delay in the decision. Now when we talk about this 8% kind of in students, they are basically looking forward for taking some kind of an, decision by working for a year or so after the graduation, and then they want to take up a, different way of looking out for an MBA or they're looking out for their decisions which are little later because of this pandemic things and all that. But the volume of the student is not too great. It is only 8% what we normally see in. And the remaining people, when we're talking about the 16% who are yet to take the decision, they are little delaying their decisions because of this particular pandemic, maybe, but they're all been geared up. So they have still not lost hopes. That's very important for us to know and understand. A little delay in the decision that can be still acceptable, but dropping the entire plans is something which is a totally different scenario altogether, right? So that's important. Now, the kind of students who weren't aware of what kind of measures have been taken by the university for this particular fall intake, that is for September 2020 and for the Jan 2021 intake, which has blended into the learning option. So almost around 25% of the students weren't aware of it. And that's where the entire students have really looked forward for deferring their intakes, and then they are moving ahead with their decisions and moving for the Jan intake rather, or looking forward for a September 2021 intake, because we have not seen the kind of a movement moving ahead saying that yes, we could be able to look forward in going for the universities wherein they are offering you the online kind of an classes and all that, right? So they were not really prepared with this particular option, to be very honest with you guys, right? So now when we talk about the 70 percentage of our students, they prefer an international healthcare system normally, yes. When it comes to Canada and UK, which are ranked most of the trusted international healthcare system by the Indian students, followed by US, then the India, then Germany, then Sweden, and then Finland. So it's more on the European segment what the students normally prefer, and Canada, and then UK, and of course, yes, when we talk about US for the priority, right? So when we speak about our Indian kind of students, the major impact what we see, the major kind of volume of students what we normally see is the post graduation programs, because students would normally prefer to go for the postgraduate program. That's nothing but the master's degree basically. So the volume of the undergraduate students still remain little less when compared to India. It's almost around 34% where we talk about it, because we don't have more of the UG students on par with the masters kind of students who normally approach for their foreign educations abroad, right? So that's the kind of a decision what normally the parents make, that they want to send their students for abroad is only majorly after graduation itself, basically. So moving ahead, when we talk about after US and Canada, UK, the most preferred destination for the Indian students is basically Australia, Germany, France, and any other kind of a top good universities, basically. So normally the volume of students what we see is the first is the US, and then we move into the Canada and the UK. So these are the kind of in top three destination what we see the volume of applications coming in for us also, right? So just trying to conclude saying that the students' interest with studying overseas, it remains strong. That's why we say that 91% of our students still want to continue, though we are being hit by this COVID, but the decisions have been pretty strong with the students. And I'm really happy for addressing this to the students out here, because that's where even you are today, and then you're listening to this session today, right? So thanks to you all guys, and having high hopes and aspirations, right? So when we speak about how do we track all this? So now the Chronicle is tracking individual colleges' plans. Most say that they are planning for a fall intake, basically. So now how do we move on? Because when we see that the students have already spoken about the 25% of the students, they didn't know what is all about for this particular fall 2020 intake, because they're not so used to for the online kind of in classes, because we have never seen such kind of an edtech kind of a technology wherein the students were so welcoming to adapt that particular skills. So that's where we see that almost around 53% of the students are still planning to go on campus and then get into the classroom sessions, basically. So the planning for the in person is always been the higher grade when we talk about it. Why do we need to only talk about foreign education when we as a test prep kind of an organization also dealing into the training for GRE and all. When we see this kind of an impact, when we have gone online, the students were still little like kind of reluctant, saying that whenever you start the classroom session, then probably yes, we could be able to join in for the classroom session rather than going for the online. But now today, when we talk about it, there are students who started adapting this kind of in culture altogether. So that's the kind of in change. And I'm sure as a university, even you guys must be really facing this particular challenges, and the students started adapting your online classes also, not impacting the kind of an education on the semester level or on the career year, academic career year. So that's where we need to go ahead in doing that. But still, the kind of a mindset what we all come from, or it is basically like they want to go in person, and I'm sure we could be able to adapt this particular model out very soon, right? And going ahead, what are the kind of measures what the universities have also taken up? Because it's a collective effort, right? When we talk about the universities abroad, what kind of even challenges they should have faced, right? Because as a university, and we know also how we have taken this particular challenges in adapting the GRE classes for the students, and as a university by yourself, what kind of precaution or the measures what you should have also taken. Similar way, the measures what we have seen, what the universities have been taking for the abroad education during the COVID session, where they have also gone online. So lectures were being given online, and it was more on the edtech kind of a technology what has been used and delivered for the students who were really looking forward for this. And the experience to the student in terms of delivery or in terms of assignment and test was a nightmare. Trust me, it was a nightmare for the students also. But I'm very, proudly able to say that the students have tried to move on. That's something which is important, and that's why they have also adapted this kind of an culture. And so we do have students who are taking up their online classes, and then they're still moving ahead with their semester, wherein they're not trying to break up their quality time in terms of the academics front. Right now, when we speak about the English language testing, I'm sure many of you all must have already tried booking your IELTS slots or your TOEFL slots, and wherein it still remains closed, right? And there is a moment now which has been, voiced out, and we see that the gates have opened for the IELTS booking as well as for the TOEFL booking out of this particular pandemic thing. So I think we are still open, and in terms of the going ahead with the booking of your IELTS and all, so you can get in touch with the organization, and we could be able to support you for your booking of your IELTS date in case if you're not done so far, right? Um, Yes, but the safety and health measure, the all university campuses, they had been sanitized daily, and we see that. And the mobility inside and outside the universities has been limited to the health officials, security, transportation, essential goods only. Students gathering have been disrupted, and only other than health measures is being taken as directed by the health services and health WHO. So the students who are on campus, the students who have been staying there in on the campuses, as well as the students who have been moving to the university, all the safety measures have been taken into the measure. And I'm really happy to see that, when we talk to our students who are already there and try to get a little heads up on the safety and the caution measures. So we get to interact with our own students, and then they have really given us a positive feedback, and the kind of measures what the universities have also been taking up in terms with their accommodations and things like that, because you do have undergraduate students also who have not yet moved out of the country, and because of the flights and that all have been cancelled. But having said that, the safety measures have been taken in place, right? And then with the universities, the 24 by 7, the student support. Now, what is that all about? So universities have opened up a self-help sections and 24 by 7 COVID 19 helpline number specifically for the student support. All university international offices in the country across the world have come together, and they are working overtime to ensure the kind of an information which is passed on the myths are busted among the students and their parents. So it's a kind of an support wherein all the universities have joined hands on this particular pandemic issue, irrespective of any kind of an discrepancy on the national front or on the international students front, because they have been really on a support front. And trust me, students out here, when you even maybe you may have your relatives or your friends or your seniors who have been stuck right now there, and then you may be getting your heads up on the kind of an information what you must be hearing from them, and I'm sure you must be looking forward for the similar kind of an information from those guys, because they have been on their jobs, and when we have been talking and communicating to the universities, and that's how we get to know about all those things. So that is basically the higher education enrollment has traditionally increased during the recessions. Normally, that's the kind of an example what we normally see. That's where I just want to give you the example is during the global financial crisis of 2008 and 9, US undergraduate and graduate enrollment grew by 5% and 10% a year, respectively, until 2011. So that is something where we speak about 5 million of the students who have really popped up. So there is a chance that today we are down by the economy. Today we are down by the global financial crisis. But nevertheless, as we would be definitely able to bounce back for this particular intake for the fall 2021 for sure, because we see ourselves the kind of an applications we are getting with the students and the way they are taking the decisions. And as I told you, 91% of the students have already made the mind that they want to still go ahead and continuing their careers in 2021 fall intake, right? That's where it is. So moving on to my next slide. Right. So what does students do to utilize the lockdown time well? Now, this is something what I wanted to talk to the students out here, because when I interact with the parents and all, they come up with the understanding saying that, how do we, look forward for the kind of in time what the students have? So what can they do in support towards their academic, because the academic classes were not functioning the way they were supposed to function on this particular pandemic issue. So we try to mobilize things. We try to give them some kind of an innovative ideas or the thought process for the students. So the first and the foremost is please stay safe. The most important thing is that, right? And we need to take all of safety measures for sure. Then attend the online classes regularly, because the online classes is something wherein it is the kind of an effort what the faculties are taking, and trust me guys, they are doing their best. And I really hats off to the all the academic team members who are present today over here. It's not an easy task for you guys to arrange for everything for the online kind of classes. We understand the pain which is going through, but having said that, I would equally appreciate the students also therein. The kind of in classroom training and the kind of an online training, it is a heavy kind of in differences, but I trust the students are really trying to take the best of the notes, and they're trying to move in with the kind of in support team what the faculties are giving to the students out there. So we all are facing the similar kind of in situation, and we are really proud to say that we are moving ahead, though it is with the pandemic issues, right? So moving on, finish any pending assignments. Do not delay your assignments, students, because if you feel that oh, we can be able to take a little later on step, the time will not wait for you. Please understand that it's your career, it's your academic year. You cannot let it go. We never know what kind of changes may come in the 2 months or in a given month, and we never know how the kind of an examination would be announced the moment the kind of pandemic fever goes down, and then we are up with the academics, because the importance of the academic year ruining is something which is a pain for any student. Trust me, guys. So please go ahead in finishing up all your pending assignments and then do it on a regular basis. Read and research as much as possible, because in the areas of interest and the life post COVID, because the moment you start doing a lot of reading, the lot of research, because this is the kind of a time what you got wherein you could be able to enhance your own skills and the subject knowledge. So try to do something more innovative, try to be more researchful in your research on your particular topics, because that would be realistically helpful for you guys out there. So yeah, but introspect on the direction what they want in their life, because that's something which is very important, because you know what you need to become. You must have already made up your mind. And for the ones who have not yet made up the mind, it is a right opportunity for you to think about your career, what you need to do next. because if you have not yet planned, this is the moment for you to think over for yourself, take out some time for yourself, because this is the kind of a time wherein you need to understand, and the kind of in bonding what we see with the families, because everything is so uncertain, and the kind of in bonding what we see with the parents, with the students, with the children, with the close friends, relatives, with the near and dear people, all are in that particular similar kind of an what do you call mindset today, because we all know what this is all about and how it is the every family going through. So please ensure and capture this moment, and then you need to think about what's your future, and this is the right time. Talk to the family, talk to yourself, talk to your friends, and then try to come to a conclusion, try to make your own decisions, what is best for you, because this time is something wherein you need to innovate your own self. Okay, this is something which we need to talk about it, and then keep a finger on the pulse of the country and the world from the authentic sources, because anyways this is something what we talk about, and then we do it regularly also, I'm sure about it. But try to keep a watch, because you get some time now to understand what's happening in and around, so that's something which is very important. So the pandemic has demonstrated that quick responses to disasters and quick adaptation to alternative solutions in trying times and important for continuity and reliance. So that's something which is really good way of understanding this particular pandemic issue. And I think nothing has stopped. No moment has stopped, right? So we are still continuing with our life. We are still adapting to the kind of culture, and we have already adapted, I would rather say, because life has not yet been stopped. We are moving ahead. We are taking the alternative methods and the solutions, and then we are moving on. There is no stop, and I think we are shaping up more better is what I feel. Yeah. So moving on to the H1B visa, what kind of temporary suspensions on the H1B visa mean? I'm sure you should have already been able to get into the heads up on the newses and the update what we have been seeing with the Trump's decisions coming in. And I think there were been alternative plans also what he was trying to make in. And I'm sure the kind of decisions what is moving ahead is all in a positive note for the students. Nothing to worry when it talks about the international students with their visa. So let's see what is this all about. So the cap on the H1B visa, only 85,000 can be supplied every year. So that's the kind of conditions what we have been seeing in now. The President Trump is now calling for a lottery system to be scrapped and instead use a salary ranking selection procedure, so that the top 85,000 salary offered get the H1B visa. Now, this is something wherein we're talking about the students or the kind of people who have been looking for H1B visa. The lottery system is something where he wanted to put a stop to it, and then wanted to take the initiative or the the other procedures what he could be able to make in it with the salary offer on the package, and then trying to put a cap on the top 85,000 salary offered people to get retained in the country for the H1B visa, right? So Trump has also asked for the prevailing wage calculation system to be cleaned up in respect to the H1B visa wages. So this is one more move. I think we can still take it up in a little positive way also for it, and we can be looking forward for more of the employment and the salaries packages also being revised up, right? So the idea is now to set the prevailing wage floor at the 50th percentile, so that people who get the H1B visa will be in the upper ending of earnings. So that is what I was just talking about. So US is basically making sure that only the highest skilled applicants are taken in from the foreign labor, so that it increases the opportunity for the Americans to get the job, right? So this is what exactly it means. So they're trying to scrap out the kind of people who are not really on the kind of salary wages, which is realistically the high skilled kind of profile person can only be in that particular country, and trying to give more of the opportunities for the Americans to get the jobs there. So it is something wherein if as a student union, you would be moving in the near future, you need to bank on, and then you need to realistically study well there and try to get into the good jobs. So there is no other kind of a movement for the students that you could just go ahead with your masters and then try to look out for something else there. No. So try to get serious with your academic sessions. Try to get serious that you would be taking up this particular master's degree seriously, and then you are moving ahead with the right aspirations in the country, right? So this is what it is all about, right? So what kind of people are affected by the temporary suspension? Because that is something what we need to know and understand. So the people who are normally affected by this particular H1B visa suspension is, I think it has nothing to do with the student, profile for the international ones. So it is basically for whom in that case? So people who are planning to come to USA on the H1B visa, the H2B visa, the L kind of visa levels. So now this is all towards the employment directly, and nothing in terms with the academics at all, right? So the holders on these visa who are not currently present in the US, considering their stamping is still pending. So it is again an impact only for those people who are looking forward for the visas in terms of the employment, right? So the employees of the company who are planning to go on site in the USA, or employees who would still be sent on their company on set. So when you see that when their hirings are basically being done by the top good companies like Infosys, or with the kind of good IT companies out there, they normally look forward for sending their own employees on site visit on the company, or on site to kind of visit, because that is something probably can get affected for the employees out there and for the employers too, right? So the companies who were highly rely on sending employees to their client site for the US. So as I told you, it is for the employee and maybe for the companies also. That's a great impact it is going to be there. The IT companies in India who regularly send Indian employees to the US. So that is where it has normally affected for these kind of an employees and for the employees of the company on the kind of an temporary suspensions on the H1B visa. So as again I conclude on this particular slide, it has nothing to do with the international students in this particular pandemic situation on the H1B visas too, right? So who does this decision not impact? As we told, the H1B holders who are already in US, the ones whose visa is still valid and they are already in US, it doesn't really impact them either, right? And students who are on the F1 visa, again, it doesn't impact on them too. Students who are working on OPT, as there is no mention on F1 visa or OPT, is the executive order, from the executive order, because there is no such kind of an visa, or the executive order has not been opted for the OPT either on the F1 visas too. So the students who are planning to go for their education in the coming season and their entry isn't barred. So what does it conclude to? If the students are in their home country and would gain travel to the US for the next semester, this doesn't impact them as well. So there is no such kind of a fear factor for the students to take the decisions wisely for planning to go ahead for their education visas. So right, so it is an open kind of an decisions what the students can take up now, and they can be able to move ahead, right? So what does the H1B submission mean for the students? So there, I'm just trying to conclude what we have just been speaking up. So no impact for the incoming batch for the fall 2020, as well as for the spring 2021, and for the fall 2021 or later. So this is what we just spoke about. So you would be graduating only 2 years later, and that is what when you would decide to take up the OPT, and post that is on the H1B visa. So we are planning after 2 years and after the OPT, and then we are talking about the H1B visa. So it's almost in a journey of next a couple of years, or rather I would be precise in telling that it's talking about next 5 years of planning for you guys, right? So the H1B suspension is only temporary, and that there are high chances that this order would be changed or been even ended by December or even before. So we never know what's going to take place because everything is going so hayway, and then we could not be able to conclude that this is the final judgment or this is the final statement what has come even for the H1B visa suspensions also, because there is lots of discussions taking place. There are no new decisions which are coming out. So I'm not sure how it is still going to be impacted even for the people who are looking for H1B visa, right? So another positive thing for the students is that when the consulates opened up, they would have reduced load and they can process for more student visa. I think this is something which is most important, what you need to know and understand. So do not feel that, because of this pandemic, we may get the visas or the embassy would be. I think it's a chance taking kind of an movement for all the international students who are planning to go. So do not let go this particular intake and move ahead on a positive note. Students on OPT might become more in demand. Absolutely right, because that's where exactly the synopsis is. Because if there is some kind of enshakement or the shaking on the H1B visas, the options are more with the OPT students to get into more demand, right? So the kind of in final conclusion, what we can be able to say that if no new H1B candidates can come from outside, this will open up great opportunities for the student who will be changing their statuses to OPT. So now it is your opportunity to grab it out. And for the student also who are basically looking forward for the OPT now there in the country, I think that's the kind of an option what they can be realistically be looking forward for. And for the students who are planning to go also now, I think there's no major impact also for them, right? So does that mean the OPT will also be cancelled? As I told you, there is nothing such kind of an input which has been coming in, right? It is only for the H1B visa, what we have been talking about. So it doesn't impact the students who would be graduating and go for the employment right now. So this is where it is. So the kind of an understanding on the entire process, what we have just spoken, is to know what to expect. If you have applied to study abroad, you have to pass a few eligibility tests, intakes, which are the kind of an test preparation. So when we're talking about your career, when we're talking about your expectations on the test, please ensure that you are taking your standardized test. Though we see that there are certain waivers out on the kind of an understanding wherein what we talk about is your understanding towards understanding towards your test preparations. So do not say no for not taking up a GRE, because GRE is very mandatory and we normally emphasize to take it up because that is one way of showcasing yourself that you are a genuine student and you're realistically looking forward for an academic ahead. And IELTS or TOEFL, again, either one of them is mandatory. And then you need to keep your focus on, and you have to take up this particular examination. There is no let go on this again. So you need to take up the eligibility criteria of the test. And then these are to be taken, your first initiative preparations, what you need to move on. Now, continue with your application process. Usually, in the case of most foreign universities, they start the session, start the session in September and October, right? However, if the situation extends beyond July, experts say that university will again adapt this changing conditions. Hence, students should not stick to their schedule and keep them with their preparations up. The reason why we are trying to emphasize on this particular point is because today we see when we have initially started up with the fall intake applications, I'm sure we will only on the counts of maybe hundreds, I would say. And now if you have to talk to me about my application status, it's gone more than thousands of the applications. Now you can see the kind of changeover what has come in, right? And every day we nothing less than 100 applications what we normally receive in the pan India. I'm just talking about Mania, right? So in the worldwide, just understand the scenario out there, like how many students would be making up the decisions today, tomorrow, and by the time your actual session begin. So now when we talk about the fall intake, fall 2021 intake, normally the application procedures would begin in the month of October. because if you're looking out for the top cream universities, they open the gates in the month of October, and the deadlines normally for the top cream university is in the month of November end or early December. And then we have the next tier universities, which do have their deadlines till January, February, March, and then so on. So you need to know and understand where you're hitting towards, and then what universities are you actually in demand for. And this is where exactly you need to start pushing all your collective prepares of making your applications ready by then, by giving your standard test, by giving your entire application a total note. I'm sure you should be also working on your statement of purpose, letter of recommendations to be collected from your college authorities, and in fact even talking about your transcripts and all that. So all these are little time consuming process. So please students, request you all to start beginning with your process in case if you have not yet begun your processing, because it is really high time now. You need to wake up and you need to start looking forward for the ones who are really interested in planning their careers abroad still, right? So this is how it is. So make use of the digital learning platforms. Now I get to see that the students say that you're not yet started my GRE preparation, or I've not still made up my mind whether I have to look forward for it or not. This is the right opportunity, guys. Please wake up and then try to get into the online classroom section for the GRE, what we are giving to the students out there. Reach out to us and then join the online classes, and you should be in a position to get yourself the kind of and quality on your GRE is still the same, not only on the classroom level, right? So you should be able to make your decisions wisely regarding your GRE and your IELTS or TOEFL examinations. So the universities abroad have either deferred or shut down the admissions completely. It is not true at all, because they haven't closed the doors, and they will never do that. Trust me, they will never do that, because as per the economy growth, it is more, I think it is almost around 27% of the economy is on the international students, international fees is basically. So how is that going to be possible for the universities to shut their doors for the international students? No, never. So the most important thing is we need to know and understand what are the kind of timelines or the deadlines what the universities are still on the process. And there was one very good question which has been asked by the student for me. Is the deadlines also being shaken up, or do we have a flexibility that you could be able to push the deadlines of for the universities? Sorry to say again, the deadlines, there's not much of impact, but yes, we have seen that there are few universities who have changed the deadlines with a couple of days or a week, I would rather say it as, but not in a situation that they have changed it for 2 months or 3 months or so. No, 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 that's not right again. So you need to know and understand that you're still on the timelines, you're still on the understanding of your process, and then you are making sure that you should be on an understanding of your taking your particular sessions on your applications on time. There should be no delay about it, right? So students with admission letter in hand would not be able to attend classes. Again, that's not true, because the ones who are already got their admission letters, they could be in a position to definitely look forward for the classes. And you could either choose your own way of looking forward for it, because I have my own students who are doing your online classes from the universities, and then they're pretty happy working that way also. And for the ones who are trying to take a delay in terms of taking the decision for moving ahead with the classroom session, they have just deferred their admissions, and it is not that they are not moving ahead. So they are very much in place, and they are very much moving ahead with their admission letters. So that's why I'm trying to conclude saying that the competition is high for the fall 2021 intake, and the application floating are too many. So you need to be taking your right career decisions very swiftly. And once you get your offer letters also in hand, try to accept them as soon as you get. And if you feel that's your dream university, do not further delay it out and go ahead with the acceptance, because that is something which is the most important key factor what you need to know and understand. Because there is no such kind of an possibility where we see that the students would be looking forward for taking up this kind of an options, saying that, oh, let me just think it over and I will make my decision. By then your seat is lost. So Just try to make your swift decisions, and then we could be able to give you a fair understanding on how it is to be done, right? So with this, I would like to conclude saying that there is no major impact in the students' decisions, and we are very happy to say this to you guys. And for the ones who had the little kind of in fear or doubt, or on this particular pandemic issue on the H1B visa, how it is going to impact on the students with their decisions on traveling on the F1 visa. I hope now you have a fair understanding, and you could be able to take your decisions more wisely, right? So yeah, I'm open for the questions now. If you have any, please put it across on your chat screen. I would be rather happy to address you all, right? Thank you so much for listening to me. And I hope this session was pretty good, or had been a little eye opener for the ones who had a little kind of a different myth altogether. Yeah.
Hello.
I would rather be good if you could just go ahead in typing your questions out there. Yeah, that should be more good. All right, I have a question coming in from Vishal Kumar. I just want to ask you about the job status in the foreign universities. Okay, when we talk about the job status, every country is having the job statuses, even in India, but it all depends on how you adapt it. Or say, for example, even your own college authorities would be giving you the campus recruitments and all. How many get through with them, how many don't get through with them. This is again a kind of an debate always. So it is a similar thing when we talk about the foreign status of the university with the job statuses. They do have their own campus placements when we talk about the university authorities and all. But it is all about how you get through with the jobs in the first go. But when you talk about the job market, for sure, you do have a lot of job market open out there. Its only thing is how you grab the opportunity and how seriously you work out, and what's your planning, how you do it. Because the planning is very important when you talk about the different motherland countries, right? So you need to know that. So I have a question coming in from Renuka Prasad. How good is UK or US for mechanical engineers? Okay, let me just be a little clear when we talk about the STEM programs over here. For the STEM program, any country is good. Please understand that, because it's more on the technical front. And when we talk about the technical front, the opportunities are in plenty, and the job statuses again are also in plenty. So again, it boils back to the same discussions in terms of the jobs. It has always been seen that you need to be in place. You need to be in a good way of your, presentation skills as well as with your knowledge skills. Both are equally important, right? And when you talk about the course content or the subject grid with the syllabuses, when you have to compare with US or UK, I would rather say that go ahead with US still, because of the kind of technology and the kind of a country, the specializations and the kind of an what do you call adaptability on the knowledge, and how the fruitfulness would be in terms of the jobs is more brighter there. Not trying to degrade the country for UK, because UK is also equally good when you have to talk about their skill sets in terms of teaching as well as in terms of their technology too. So it is your call, I would say, basically, what you want to do. If you have to talk to me, it is both as a good country for mechanical engineers. How good is UK? Or okay, I think I've answered your question, Renuka, the same question what you've been asking me. All right, so moving on to Venkatesh, can you tell me when can the US consulate start? Okay, this is a good question. What it is, we are all waiting for it, Venkatesh. And the moment we have some kind of an insight, because we do get some kind of in mailers, then the kind of an alert from the embassies and all that, we do have a discussion panel and the advisory panel visits on all this particular things. The moment we have some kind of an inclusion or information, we would rather pass it on to the college authorities, and then you should be able to get to know from us, right? So tentatively, also I cannot be able to, that would be a very wrong way to put it across in this particular panel, but we're all hoping for the Jan intake to start up as soon as possible. So I think that would be the closest what we can think about it, right? Okay, moving on to the next question, what I have is from Puneet Kumar Patil. Can the alien come to the US on another visa or visitor visa while the H1B petition is under the review? Um, Not really. See, again, it all depends on how you're taking it up, because visitor visa is only valid basically. I'm like, that all depends on how you're having your options. I'm like, but it doesn't mean that you could be able to stay in the country for more time. So, giving the duration is only for 6 months, and then you have to move on. So, in what way would it be fashionable? I think the kind of in petition what is there with the movement is always more advisory that either you go on an H1B visa, or else you try to take a route towards the F1 visa. I think that would be more realistic in that particular scenario, Puneet, right? I hope I've answered your question. And moving on to the next question from Sangeeta. What are the exams? What are the exams for this ways? Which ways? I mean, if you're talking about the standardized test, I would rather say that you should be taking up your GRE, and you should be talking about your IELTS or TOEFL, right? So these are the kind of in two examinations or the standardized test what you need to take it up. Okay, so moving on to Venkatesh question, also for like electronics. Okay, electronic, as I told you, STEM collectively, all this particular four countries, I would rather call them as, you can talk about US, you could talk about UK, Canada, and even for Australia, for the given instances, these particular countries are pretty more noted or looking forward for it. When you talk about mechanical courses, I would rather say that probably yes, Germany should be one of the choice of the countries what you could be able to make it up for the mechanical engineering stream, as well as when you talk about any STEM program given to understand electronics and communication, or even for the matter for computer sciences and all, or management degrees, even Germany should be one of the choices for you guys, right? So moving on to the next question from Mr. Praveen. But now Trump stated that he's giving more opportunities for their country people, rather people from other countries. Then how to overcome this problem, and for the students who have perceived their studies in USA? That's a very good question what you've asked, Praveen. So now you need to know and understand the importance of the foreign education system, because you need to maintain your good GPA. First thing is that. And the second thing is you need to be intact with your student status visa, because that's again important. Because normally these two things are something which should be in place, and you should be having a constant check in terms of your employment stability also. Try to keep having your networks very strong, and try to move in with your network, saying that you should be in a position to get into the OPT immediately once you are having your what do you call like with once you're done with your semester examinations. So the GPA and the good conduct on your student, and the kind of good employability would be able to give you a little leverage in getting through this particular job scenarios over their own people. But sure, I'm sure that if you should be able to come over this, if you would be in a position to track up on your own profile, simple as that. Yeah. So moving on to the next question is coming in from Karthik. With H1B visa, can we do both, like further study and work? Yes, you can do, but only thing is when you change your visa to H1B visa, and then you should be only in a position of doing your work, rather than if you're looking out for an education, then it will not be a full-time kind of an education. Please understand that. If you're looking out for a full-time kind of an education, then you need to talk about your change in your visa status, right? So moving on to the next question is Vinayak. What is the total cost for abroad universities? Okay, now this is a good question what you've asked me. You have a variation on the tuition fees depending on to the public universities and the private universities out there, and what kind of in bursaries, or rather in a normal situation we talk about is scholarships. Because so keeping all these things in mind, you can be in a position to spell out or shell out money is in among 25 lakhs till 35 lakhs or 45 lakhs or 55 lakhs. It all depends on the kind of universities you're looking forward for, and the kind of course what you're looking forward for. So having said that, from the lowest till the highest fee structures, universities are very much available, and then you should be in a position to take your choices very swiftly, basing on to your interest on the universities and the courses, right? All right, so moving on to next question from Sangeeta. What are the references to this examination? As I told you, we have already discussed about this, Sangeeta. So I'm just trying to skip your question, which was already answered. I have a question from Dr. Rashmi Soni. Please send PPT on my email ID. Okay, sure, we'll try to do that. I'm sure we could be able to do it for you guys. All right, I have a question coming in from Prerna Prasad. Okay, what is OPT and what is the entrance examination we need to take up to do masters in Germany for computer science? Now, OPT is basically the kind of an optional practice training which we normally talk about after your stay back options, which we talk about in USA basically. So after your master's program, you are given an opportunity to stay back in the country, provided you are having your employment intact, and then you could be in a position to stay back in the country for almost around 2 years to 3 years of the extended period. Now, that is one part of your question. The second part of your question was, what is that you need to do to get into the Germany, right? When we talk about Germany, the first thing what you need to talk about is your GRE examination. Then you need to talk about your next entrance examination is something to do with IELTS or TOEFL. Either one of them is again accepted in Germany. The other requirement for Germany would be your German language examinations, wherein you need to talk about A1 certifications or A2 certification, basically, which is required before you start pushing your application. So try to take up this particular German language examinations also. So these classes are available for you, and you need to take up this particular certification courses too for Germany. All right, I hope I've answered your question there. I have a question coming in from Dr. Rashmi again. The postdoc direction admission is there, so admissions are open in which universities and where it should be good for you to do for which city? Okay, if I'm looking out for the postdoc in terms of the PhD programs you are looking forward for, yeah, as Mania we also do in this particular for the PhD universities also, and we have good number of professors who are dealing, we are actually in touch with, and then who are looking forward for taking up their postdoctoral kind of programs for the respective universities. So we help them and we assist them even in our services for the PhD programs. So I think we can be able to talk about it one-on-one, Rashmi, and we can be able to look forward for your questions in specific. All right. So I have again a question coming in from Puneet Kumar. Ma'am, how can we avail a financial aid during the pandemic? All right. That's a good question what you have asked. So you do have universities. It's nothing to do with pandemic issue, basically, Puneet, because a scholarship is a scholarship. An award body is an award body for you, right? So it all depends on your, your achievements on your GPA, your achievements on your GRE, as an overall profile, how you are as a student. So scholarships are basically on the overall profile. Basic thing is that. So it's again to do with your GPAs also at the same time. So if you are a good student and then you're a good academic student and then you have a scope of getting to a scholarship, so it is irrespective of this pandemic issue, you should be in a position to get through that also. But yeah, we have been seeing that there is a kind of an understanding with the universities, where the universities have tried to little have discounts offers been given to them, the universities saying that the tuition fees has become a little less adaptive for the students and all that. So it is, again, it's a university by university kind of in chances. It has nothing to do with an overall kind of an decision by the countries basically. So every university is having their own norms. So it depends on the universities basically how they are being flexible in giving some kind of scholarships and bursary to the students out there. Right? I hope I've answered your question, Puneet. I have a question coming in from Shanmuga. Feedback link. Okay, we should be sharing you the feedback link shortly after the session is being done. I think my panel people will be sharing you that. Thanks for asking me this particular question. We should be looking into that. Right. I have a question again coming in from Dr. Rashmi. I think we have just spoken about it. I have a question from Bharati Sinde. What are the opportunities and exams in computer science and engineering? It's the same thing. Basically, you should be talking about the same question now. Again, GRE, and then it says IELTS and or TOEFL, what you need to talk about it, right? So moving on to, I'm just trying to skip the similar question, guys, because it's the same kind of questions what you are asking me in terms of what kind of exams we can be able to give in. So in general, in a nutshell, for all the engineering STEAM people who are planning to go for it, try to take up a GRE and try to take up either IELTS or TOEFL. I think that should be okay. And in terms of the job opportunities, I think there is no stop for it, because you should be able to look forward for job opportunities in all countries, even in India. But only thing is, the possibilities in terms of how you adapt towards that particular jobs is something what you need to make up the opportunities for yourself. Okay, and you need to even respect the opportunities whatever you get, right? I think that's the way you could be able to get into the careers for employment. All right. I think the similar question. I'm just trying to move on to the next question. What we have. Okay. Okay. I have a question coming from Prerna Prasad. What would be okay? Sorry. Will it be fine to get admitted from any of the universities if we have a backlog subject in our engineering? Okay, very good question, Prerna. So I think when we speak about it, I think it's very important that the backlogs are definitely considered, and it is yes. Now, how do you calculate the backlog is also an understanding what you need to know, and I think it's a good platform what I'm talking about with all the students over here. Say for example, if you have a backlog in your first semester, and you couldn't clear it up till your third semester, okay, you have been resitting for the same examination. So how many times you have resit for that examination on that one subject? The resits are also called as backlogs. Now you get that? So one subject, if you have able to resit for the examination 2 times or 3 times, then again, it is basically 3 backlogs what you need to count. It's not about one subject as a backlog. So this is the biggest confusion what the students comes to me and asking that, oh ma'am, I had only one backlog, or I have only one subject which I had, a backlog in one particular semester, but I've already cleared it out. But in how many attempts you have cleared it out is a backlog count again for you guys. So now it is for you to take a count on your backlogs, because that's very important. Now certain times what happens is I think they are good enough students who normally talk about around 10 backlogs also in their total career. And I have even seen students with 23 backlogs also. So I was not surprised by that, because it all depends on how your student as an academics you have taken your career front, right? So the adcoms in that particular universities would also talk about your backlog, and there's a way how you would be able to get evaluated. So say for example, with 22 backlogs or with 20 backlogs, but still the student has been in a position to maintain approximately around 70% or 75%. And if he feels that he's on the top of his world, saying that I'm still having my aggregate as 7.5, how does it matter? But if you're having almost around 25 backlogs, you could be still treated as a backlog candidate irrespective of your GPA. Please understand that, because every universities have their backlog system cross-check. They could be able to cross-verify. If you even not try to disclose it, there are process, there are methods wherein they could be able to analyze, they could be able to know your backlogs number. So there's no way we could be able to escape through that, right? So this is something what I wanted to, even good question what you've asked. I'm rather happy to address it out to you, all of you. All right. So moving on to your next question. Okay, let me just scroll a bit. I think. Yeah. Okay, I have a question coming in from Priya Ram. Which travel restrictions to many countries due to COVID-19 and H1B visa holders been given forgiveness if there is a time to return? See, there is travel restrictions to many countries due to this. Yeah, it is definitely there. But what kind of forgiveness if there is the time to return? It is all, it's all a decision what the embassy is taking right now, Priya. It is quite difficult to answer you on this particular thing, because even in the time what we have seen is, I think I had students from Italy who had been stuck till recently. And I think the recent batch of the university for the students which had landed up, was the last flight what we saw is in the first week of July. So the students were still stuck there. It all depends on the kind of an the embassies have been taking up their turns, and then they have been able to go ahead in allocating the flights, and then they are able to look forward for such kind of an mobility, depending on to the understanding on the students and the embassy requirements. I think that's something which we would be able to talk about it right now. Yeah, so that's where we could be able to see. Let's try to cross our fingers, and then let's see how with the safety measures the students could be able to return back, right? So I have a question coming in from Karthik. Is engineering academic percentage matters to get admission? Of course, yes. Your engineering academic percentage is the prime criteria for shortlisting your universities, for shortlisting your universities, as well as with their course specializations and all that. So say, for example, if you are having around 55 percentage or 65 percentage, right? So this is one of the criteria for doing it. But of course, yes, it is a criteria. Please understand that there are different ways of criteria when we talk about how your admissions are being assisted or validated. It is on the basing on your GPA. It is on the basis of your GRE score. It is on the basing on your SOP, letter of recommendation, and your extracurricular activities. Or in a nutshell, it is an overall profile. So your overall profiling is something wherein we talk about the decisions what the outcomes would be able to take in, right? So normally we speak about the profile of the student basically. So in the profile of the student, all these are the kind of parameters what has been looked into it. So this is something what we can be able to talk about. Yeah. So I hope I've answered your question, Karthik. So let's move on to the next question. When it comes with Vishal Kumar. Okay, I'm a PhD student in computer science. How could I get a job in foreign universities? Which country would be the best except for US? Okay, PhD in computer science. You can be talking about UK because UK is pretty good with the research background. And you could also talk about Germany because even they are pretty strong with the PhD in computer science. So you could be able to look about these particular countries also. And when it comes to the jobs, as a stipend student, you could be already been absorbed by the university. And as a research professor's assistants and all that, you could be able to hunt good kind of jobs. But only thing is, you would be able to work under some kind of life projects or some kind of research domains under some kind of good organization or the kind of project what the companies are doing in. And I think that's the kind of an opportunity what you should be able to look forward for. And there are quite a good job search portals again available with the respective countries under the domain for the PhD program. So you should be quite swift in searching of those kind of opportunities, and we could be able to talk about it and then when we have a interaction session with you. All right. So other than US, I think I've answered your question. You could be able to look out for the opportunities in UK as well as Germany. Yeah, I think that should be the right countries for you right now. All right. I have a question coming in from Pooja. Pooja Reddy. Can I change my job after I get my H1B visa? If yes, how? Can I change my job? Oh, you can change your job, but your employer needs to relieve you. First thing is that. And then the new offer, what you get from the other company, your status has to be changed by the employer who is going to take you into the new job roles, right? So there is a transit time, what has been there, which has been given to you. So you need to put in forward for this particular transit time frame with the new employer. So it is something what you would be hiring a kind of understanding with the previous employer and your current employer. So that's how you should be able to make it up. Yeah. So moving on to the next question from Shayan Jamal. I get 90 percentage in diploma. Then there is any kind of a scholarship for a student? Oh yes, why not? You do have a bright chances of getting into the scholarships. Okay. I have a question again coming in from Prerna. Do they admit us even after evaluating it? Of course. See, there are universities who accept with the backlogs. If your question is related to backlogs, I think that's what you asked me earlier. So Prerna, so there's nothing to panic about your backlog. There are set of universities who do accept, and there are set of universities who don't know what backlog is. To be very honest with you guys, when I interact with the universities reps and all that, there are certain university reps who do not understand the seriousness of the backlog, and for them the overall percentage is important irrespective of the backlog, because there are certain set of universities who do take understanding that they should have undergone backlog for any x reason. If you're able to justify that reason, they're still okay with your backlogs. So you do have certain set of universities who are okay and fine with your GPA, and they can be able to waive off on your backlog. So you could be able to fit into those kind of universities for sure, yes. All right. So if that's your question altogether. Okay, I have a question coming in. Ma'am, what is this H1B caps? Okay, and who is eligible for it? It is basically for the employability scenario. Basically for the for the people who are looking out for jobs, for having a kind of in settlement programs, not at the initial level, but sure, I think you're taking up this particular H1B visa is a long time association with the country, taking the jobs and then trying to move into the country and then look forward for your green card. So that is the kind of a thing. And I see that the kind of in cap, what normally think about it, you need to have a good salary packages and then to get into that particular country right now. So your overall profile needs to be realistically good. And the kind of in chances of getting the acceptance right now on the H1B visa is little heavy. So you should be in a position to little relax and then push in your applications for that matter. All right. So that is what I could be able to talk about it right now. So I have a question again coming in from Dr. Rashmi Soni. One passport is enough to visit different places to choose for your postdoc like Germany, UK. Of course, yes, your one passport should be fine with it. One passport, I'm like your Indian passport right now, that should be okay. Yeah. I have a question coming in from Maithili. Feedback links, ma'am, we have another webinar. Okay, I think let's wind it up in that case if you're having another webinar, and we would be able to communicate on your questions and all little later on. I think the other questions what I'm able to see on my screens are almost similar questions what we have already spoken about it, and we could be able to realistically give you an insight about it through more kind of an options what we able to seek up with the college authorities. And once we are able to get in touch with you guys also, I think that should be really good. All right. So let's try to have a little feedback from you guys. I think how good was this like session with you guys? Was it a little eye opener for you all? How do you rate this seminar session? You could be able to give your valuable suggestions in the feedback links, but just to kind of an understanding on this particular session, was it fair enough or not? Did you realistically have some kind of a knowledge exchange? If so, can you just give me a heads up on your chat screen? Was it a good session or not? As yes or no, that should be helpful for us. Yeah. All right, we will definitely send you the recording also, Rashmi. All right. Thank you so much for your feedbacks coming on the screen as yes. Yeah, great. Yeah, I think I leave this particular session now to Dr. Madihali. I think he could be able to take it over now. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Can I conclude, madam? Conclude the session?
Please, you can. Go ahead, sir.
Okay. Good afternoon to all. It is a time to offer a vote of thanks on behalf of management, principal, HOD and participants. I wholeheartedly thank Ms. Shabnam Banu Madam, National Admission Head, Manya Education, for the topic sharing the information about H1B, COVID and our American education dream. So thank you very much, Madam, for such a wonderful session. I sincerely thank all the participants for their active participation, and I hope that they will make best use of this webinar in their future career. I, on the behalf of the entire HSIT family, express deep sense of gratitude towards the management and principal, Dr. S.C. Kamte sir, of our esteemed institution for their kind support and encouragement towards this webinar. I take the opportunity to thank our beloved HOD, Dr. Ravi M. Yadahalli sir, for his encouragement, guidance, and continuous support for the successful conduction of the webinar. Thank you very much, sir. I thank my colleagues for their coordination in this process in conducting this webinar. Thank you one and all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Yeah. So thanks for this opportunity in giving you the awareness for us, for your students. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you all.